Hello there, you Awakening Wonders. Thanks for joining me today for Stay Free with Russell Brand. For the first 15 minutes, we'll be on YouTube, then we'll be exclusively streaming on Rumble. And for those of you that are Awakened Wonders, you will get every single week additional content as I conduct Christian conversations that seem more and more relevant as it becomes utterly apparent, unavoidable and unignorable that we have entered into the domain of spiritual warfare. How do you know that? Because there's been an erosion and collapse of all moral and spiritual principles. That's how you can have someone say, this is Joe Biden by the way, no one is above the law, then elevating their own son to a position where they are above the law. I suppose I would do the same thing for my son. Would you do the same thing for your children? But that is not a reliable system of government and governance. That's why you need sacred principles to undergird systems of government. That's just what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments and chat. We'll be talking about Hunter Biden in more detail, as well as Kash Patel. But that will be when we're exclusively on Rumble. We've got Jack Posobiec coming up on the show and Jonathan Pageau. So we get both a political and spiritual perspective on the issues that will determine the trajectory of your nation and therefore the world. Do you think we have reached a fissure and canyon that has now been crossed by the elevation and election of Donald Trump? Or do you think that we still have worldly operatives in control of America and therefore the planet? Do you think we're any closer to God than we were 5 months ago? Do you sense that there's an air of optimism, a glimmer of hope and awakening? Let me know in the comments and chat if you agree with that. Hunter Biden was pardoned last night from a bunch of potential crimes, near felonies, tax evasion, his extraordinary relationship with Ukraine and Burisma, of gun ownership violations, and a laptop's worth of mad maladies. Let me know if you think this is evidence of deep and entrenched corruption. Meanwhile, Donald Trump has nominated Kash Patel to be the head of the FBI. Likely this will be confirmed by the Republican Senate majority pretty soon. And let me know if you believe that the Hunter Biden pardon is further evidence of deep and intransigent corruption, because we've seen no pardon, have we, for Edward Snowden? We've seen no pardon for the various whistleblowers who have shown us evidence of state corruption. But when it comes to family members, nepotism is not a fit system for government. That's just what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments and chat, though. We've got Jack Posobiec coming on the show now. If you don't know who he is, he's a political activist, author, and media personality. I'm sure you follow him, don't you? He's also written books like, for example, Antifa, Stories from Inside the Black Bloc, and Citizen for Trump. Have a look at this conversation now. Just the first few minutes will be available on YouTube. Then we'll be exclusively streaming on Rumble, the home of free speech. I sense, Jack, that you are experiencing some sort of weariness and fatigue and frustration. What's going on, mate?
Hey, well, thanks for having me on, man. And I have to tell you that it's been an interesting couple of weeks. So we come through November 5th. There was this huge campaign and the election, and everyone is working hard and everyone's fighting to win. You want to win, and you have to urge everyone to come on board in all these states. And so just traveling and go, and spending every weekend on the road or on the plane or doing this event to that event. And then obviously things go our way. Things did very well on November 5th. But, there's an interesting thing that happens that, when you win, it's in many ways actually harder than losing, because when you lose, you just go home. But when you win, you actually have to do the work. You actually have to put together a government, and you have to, have various people vying for different offices and orifices, and you have people trying to, getting into these different positions, and suddenly you have all these people who were friends, but now the friends all have differences of opinion, or you have two people that want the same job, or, all of these various ideas about which way to go with things, or, oh, don't do that. That's a bad idea. That's a good idea. That's a terrible idea. And so it actually creates more work from the perspective of victory, because, it's sort of like, it's sort of like you've been asking dad for the keys to the car. You've been asking dad for the keys to the car. Now all of a sudden he gives you the keys to the car, but then he gives you this whole list of things that you've got to do to take care of the car and prepare the car and keep the car ready. And then you actually, of course, have to drive the car and decide what to do. And so it's a good feeling, but yeah, it has been a couple of months of just long, arduous work.
Do you feel it as well? Like you said, like I'm aware of it. When I was like in Hollywood, for want of a better synecdoche, there are the same sort of games that go on, the same sort of tribes and institutions and powerful figures. Like, are you close enough to the heat? Are you close enough to the person that's hot at the moment? In this election, you've sort of seen how like Mar-a-Lago has become a kind of Camelot. It's a different feeling from 2016 because of the addition of Elon and Vivek and Bobby Kennedy and Tulsi, and it's interesting to hear you describe like the feeling of being around their former allies, maybe jostling for position, vying for supremacy with one another. That's an interesting aspect of this. I wonder if, because I remember being affected by those things. I'm still affected by those things. Like I think myself, when I hear that you're at Mar-a-Lago, I'm like, oh, should I be at Mar-a-Lago? Shouldn't I be there as well? Like Jack's there. We're kind of obviously different in 100 different ways. But like the other thing is like that I'm not like actively campaigning for Trump in the way that you or Charlie Kirk are. I'm just like, hey, I don't trust these globalist corporatists, man, and they're lying to you, that Democratic Party. But I've never been sort of like, I'm here for like to make sure that the Dominion machines are not rigged, and I'm here to fact check and make sure the way you guys are. But I still am a human being. I still feel like, like I can get caught up in worldly power and start thinking, oh, this is what it's all about. Now, as a Christian and a recent Christian, I'm continually trying to check myself, are you starting to worship these systems of power now, having been shown that Hollywood was phony and false and empty? Are you now going to just transfer those same drives and desires to wanting to succeed and achieve in this new space and want to be close to this human or worldly power? Like, what about you? You've been through like the Navy and the military and everything, which is pretty obviously hierarchical in ways that are formal. And I wonder if when you're in the military, like, oh, I hope that commanding officer likes me. I hope I get chosen for this mission. Oh, this person's on the up and has been chosen and anointed. Like, how does it affect you, those feelings of being near power? And how does your Christian faith prevent you from being overwhelmed by it, Jack?
Well, no, that's a really great way of putting it. And by the way, I wanted to, I'll just say it's great. It's been great being here, and it's great getting all of the different inputs from various people. And it's work, to be sure, it is work, but it's a wonderful situation to have and a wonderful situation to be in. And I've loved being here with Elon, and I got to spend some time with Elon, and obviously with President Trump. Tulsi Gabbard, she's been in and out. I think she's fantastic. I think she's someone who's a truth teller. And I think that's what everyone sort of centers around, is that idea of truth. So here we are, we're in this situation where it's now the worldly power, as you say, it's that worldly power that's been handed over. And from all of the people to say, okay, we want to give our trust to you, right? And I think that's probably the biggest piece of it for me, is people have put their trust in this movement, and people have put their trust in this idea, and through faith to say, we believe that you can have the ability to help lead us forward into a great place, and to be a great leader, and to have a great team. And certainly that's all been put together. And so for me, as a Christian, it's that question of, okay, I might be locked in some discussion on some aspect of policy, or locked in some idea of which way to go forward. Is this the right move? Is that the right move? And you've got to pray. you've got to pray. You've got to find time for prayer every single day. And I know I told you the last time I was on with you that I do the rosary every single day. I still do the rosary every single. I've got my rosary right here. I've got my St. Michael the Archangel rosary, by the way. He's right there. And this has been, it is for me a way of centering and a way of being able to cut through all sort of the chaos that's running around and the pressure. You know, it really is intense pressure, but you have to understand that while, and it's something that Thomas Aquinas talks about, because Aquinas in Summa Theologica, he gets into this idea that because we are humans, so we are spiritual beings, but we're human beings as well. And so as humans, we are social by nature. So you live in society, you live in a community, and as Christians, you are encouraged to participate in those societal duties and governance and economic activities. But at the same time, that when you participate in them, you have to be guided by the virtues: justice, charity, prudence. And this is what we learn from the Bible. This is what we can be in touch with when we're praying. So then as pertains to these various things that I might be dealing with here, or that any one of us might be dealing with throughout our day, or even, even when I'm with my children or something, it's still that idea of we have to carry through our principles so that we have to understand that we're being true to them and reflect back on them when we're faced with so much pressure and so much potential adversity, to the point where, my goodness, it's like the entire world has just focused on, this very spot and the people that are going through it. And, certainly President Trump is there. And I think it's something too, I'll say it to him as well, that this is the first time, and really since I think he survived his brush with death earlier this year, when Trump was at that field in Butler, Pennsylvania, we saw not only did he immediately, for the first time, and he doesn't usually talk like this. He doesn't usually use religious language or theological language. The very first thing he said was, it was God alone. And he gave thanks to God for saving him. And then this huge public embrace of God and Christianity from Trump that we've never seen before, I think, in his entire life. And he's posting the St. Michael prayer. He actually did that, by the way, a couple of weeks ago. He prayed for the Feast of All Saints Day, for the Nativity of Mary, for so many of these aspects. It's like he's actually invoking Christianity in a public way. And I think that really does put it front and center in a way that sticks with the entire movement, but it also animates the millions of people that came out on November 5th the way that they did. And so I have to imagine, and I just believe personally, that what's going on is actually a spiritual contest.
The rest of the conversation will be exclusively available on YouTube. Click the link in the description. Join us on Rumble.